What up, gamers? In today's video, I'll be teaching you guys some long-term strategies on how to get good at TFT, the things I think are required for any player who really wants to be a good player or just get better at the game. That's what we'll be talking about today. What I'll not be talking about is things like take this augment, take this, build this comp, build these items. That's something that we talk about weekly on this channel, but this is more for long-term improvement if you are going from being, your hard stuck gold or something like that, or you're a new player, or you're somebody who just wants to start taking the game a little bit more seriously, and they will actually want to, in their mind, whatever it means for you to be a good player, then this is the video for you. If you've been following my channel for a long time, or if you've watched other improvement style videos like this, and a lot of the things I'm going to say in this video you may have heard before, and that is because being good at TFT is a lot like war. It never changes. If you guys don't know who I am, just some credential nonsense to get out of the way. I played TFT Set 1. I've peaked challenger in 7 different sets, and everything I've ever done with any professional career I've ever had is all about teaching other people how to do stuff or get better at stuff. So that is a little bit of my background there. With that out of the way, let's get into the first part of the video. The first thing that every TFT player should do is watch and learn. And so in the background right now, I just pulled up Soju's stream, and look what he's doing right now. He is making a little document, making a little guide for himself and his stream viewers on what comps he should play and some things that have happened to him in his games. And he's just kind of like reflecting on this. So everyone should watch and learn. The great thing about TFT is it's a game that has no physical fundamentals, unless you count swapping and stuff like that, a physical fundamental. There is no physical fundamentals, so the game is completely mental, meaning that you don't need to be playing the game to actually improve, especially if you're a new player or if you are, someone who's really stuck. You will benefit a lot more from watching more gameplay. Over time, you can taper it down, but you should be watching a lot more than you are playing, especially when you're a brand new player, or if you're really stuck at a skill level, you've been stuck at a skill level for a long time. And when you're watching them, you're watching to learn about 2 things. You want to learn the meta, but most importantly, you need to watch just like the consistent decisions they make throughout the game. So what a lot of people get wrong about just being good at anything, anybody who's never been like top level or world class at something, if you've never done that before, then this is hard to understand. But if you ever have, being good at something, being the top level at something, largely is just who can do the fundamentals correctly more often than anyone else. So like if you want to get really good at, for example, like League of Legends or something like that, or let me not say a video game. If you want to get really good at basketball, well, before you start playing team sports and before you start like getting on the court or playing 5v5s and competing for your local championship or whatever, you got to practice your jump shot. You got to practice your dribble. You got to, practice your passing. You got to practice your handles. And in mastering those things, that's what actually makes the best players. It's not about the flashy things that people do. It's not about the cool tech, the things you cook up. It's about who can perform the fundamentals best, most often, most consistently, and can perform it to the highest level. Once you have all those things down, then you can start cooking. Then you can start doing a bunch of stuff. So for example, if you are somebody who has, how does this actually translate to TFT? So if you're someone who, let's say you're starting to take the game a little bit seriously, but you have other life commitments and that sort of thing, I get it. Let's say you can play maximum 30 games in a week, which is a decent amount. That's like 3 to 4 games. That's about 4 games a day, 4.1 or 4.2 games a day. That's a decent amount of games to play, especially if you have, other full-time life commitments. So, but if you want to get better at TFT, you're going to have to invest some time, of course. So let's say you only have 30 games to play. Rather than playing 30 games, if that's all the time you have for TFT is those 30 games, then instead of playing 30 games, you should probably play 15 games. And half of the time you should spend watching someone play and studying the game rather than actually playing. Whenever you're watching someone play, pay attention to the consistent decisions they make. What you're going to be trying to learn is things like leveling intervals, like what items are they slamming. That can be a little bit more meta dependent, but like, especially like leveling intervals, how they consistently use their econ. Know that the game is very nuanced, so sometimes they'll do something different than normal, but a lot of players will talk out their thought process, or you can just ask them. Or, if you're watching enough gameplay, you'll be able to identify whenever, the game is not normal. The game is in a weird game state where they're utilizing not the consistent fundamentals, but that's what you want to learn. You want to learn the consistent things that they're doing game over game over game over game, and that will help you learn and establish your game fundamentals. Next up is studying the meta and getting acquainted with stats. Now, I know a lot of you guys are out there like, oh, stats. I'm not saying always have your second monitor open, looking at stats the whole time you're playing, like, you know, a popular player like Soju does a lot. That's not what I'm saying. You can play the game intuitively when you're actually playing the game. I find the game to be a lot more fun if I'm not constantly checking stats, personally. But you have no excuse to not understand the meta and understand what's going on. It's actually really easy. It's not actually a big time commitment because we have all these fantastic resources that can just give you a little bit of snapshot at the meta. TFT, as I said at the beginning of the video, getting good at TFT is something that doesn't change very often, but TFT is a game that updates so frequently, it's crazy. So if you were playing the game at the time of making this video 2 weeks ago, we were firmly in a 2-cost, 3-cost reroll meta. And if you were playing 2 weeks ago, you took a week off, and then you started playing today and started trying to play like that, you'd lose every game because we are firmly in a 4-cost meta now. So you need to keep up with what's going on in the game. And so, you know, you can check in with patch notes, that sort of thing. But a really easy way to just know what's going on, know what's strong, is using stat websites. So get acquainted with using websites like Tactics.tools, Meta TFT, and then TFT Academy. And TFT Academy is great because it gives you a little snapshot of the meta very easily and is curated by Dishop and Frodan, which are Dishop arguably is the best player in the world, in my opinion, best player in the world just based off of consistency. Or, you know, you can make an argument for him, certainly. And then Frodan, a great player, great educator in the space. So yeah, getting acquainted with these stat websites and stuff like this, as well as if you are not someone who wants to like actually dig into the numbers yourself and you don't want to like go through this stuff and theory craft. If that's not something you want to do and like reading text is not very helpful for you, then people like myself, you know, and the people I just said, Dishop, Frodan, loads of other creators, they do a meta report each week or a comps list. I do a meta report every single week. And like I just did mine for the current patch 23 hours ago, as you can see right here. As well as I will talk about individual builds in their own videos. And then if you want to learn some more niche tech, I also do stuff like that as well. Like this is kind of a niche build. You know, I talk about some other niche builds that can be strong. So basically what I'm saying is you have no excuse not to understand the meta. Now at the beginning of a patch, you're going to have to just, if you want to play the beginning of the patch, you know, the meta isn't super established. You're going to play the beginning of the patch, just accept that you're going to lose a lot of games before people who help establish a meta for you. Unless you actually want to dig into the patch notes and you start to be good enough at the game where you can interpret the game on your own, that's fine as well. But basically, guys, the first two things in this video we talked about, watching and learning, studying the meta, getting familiar with stats. You have no excuse not to do that. It's so easy. And if you're not paying attention to stats, you're not paying attention to metas and what people are talking about in the community, then you are just putting yourself behind. And if you actually want to get good at the game, you just have to do these first two steps. Hey, if you have the means to, and you want to help support me continuing to do what I love, which is make these videos for you guys, then consider becoming a member. Thank you. Back to the video. Next up, I want to talk about a training strategy that I use. It's a little bit more unique to me, I guess. I consciously think about this, but this is a training strategy I've used my whole life to get good at anything. And I think a lot of people use it unconsciously. They just don't know about it. And it's a training strategy called plus, minus, and equal. And that is a training strategy from the retired MMA fighter, Frank Shamrock. And so what the core of it is, I'm just going to give the very brief overview in the way that I understand it. Plus is something you're looking forward to, and so have some people in mind. So for example, if you are a gold player and you want to become a master player, then you are looking up to all the players who are master and above, you know, and that can be very easy with TFT. It could be the streamers that you watch, the YouTubers that you watch, the players that you look up to at the World Championship, that sort of thing. So you're studying those people because you want to get to their level. The minus, which is an important step, is people who are below you. If you've ever become good enough at something where you get into a position where you have to teach others, or people look to you as an authority in the space, you will find you learn a lot more teaching others than you do learning yourself. A lot of times, especially when you get a level of competency where you are, you know, reasonably knowledgeable in that field. And so the way that can translate to TFT, for me, it's really easy because I make these videos. I have to explain concepts of the game. And in the process of explaining concepts, I learn a lot about the game. In my past career, I was a lifeguard instructor. So I'd have to teach lifeguards and I would have to explain, you know, basic life-saving stuff and fundamentals of lifeguarding and stuff. And so that helped me learn about that. And I got good enough at that where I would audit other instructors And I always got way better at that job when I was actually auditing other instructors or teaching rather than when I was actually studying. So the way that can translate to TFT is very easy for me, obviously. But for you, you know, if you're involved in Discord communities, or if you have friends that play TFT that are worse than you at the game, you can teach them some things. And in that process, you will learn a lot more. You know, but if you don't have anybody, you can just pretend that you have to teach somebody. Just like, you know, if you're not very social and you're not involved, then write up a document if you had to explain a game fundamental of TFT. And in the process of trying to explain that in a way that you would have to explain to someone else, you will find that you probably have a lot of holes in your knowledge, and then you can fill those holes, and you can find those holes by trying to teach somebody or reteach yourself the process. Now, equal is so important. We're going to talk a lot about this more in just a second, but equal is about respecting your opponents. You have opponents that you compete against, and in TFT that's really easy because that's just your rank. And so it's all about respecting your opponents, respecting the challenge that is in front of you. As soon as you start thinking that you're better than the people you're playing against and you don't belong here, that is not a good sign. Unless you're at the very top level and you can, you know, use this confidence as motivation, that's not a good sign. You need to respect the opponents in front of you. You know, there's a quote from Lao Tzu. I'll just pull it up right in front of me. There is no greater danger than underestimating your opponent. So you do not, so you need to take the challenge in front of you seriously, or you'll be stuck where you are. This happens to me a lot. I'll end up, you know, being upset about the current rank or current standing I'm in, and then I'll stop taking my competition seriously. And as soon as I start taking my competition seriously, and then like being like, okay, let's just play good fundamental games, then I start winning a whole lot more. Okay, now that we have done the first 3 steps and we're consistently doing this, we're doing great, we're doing all this stuff, and we're starting to get a little bit better at the game. Well, you do not want to be caught into the trap of the Dunning-Kruger effect. You've probably heard of this before. It's very popular online and you know, pop psychology and stuff like that. But what the Dunning-Kruger effect is, I'm going to explain it in the way that I understand it, of course, is as soon as you start to gain a basic knowledge base of something, you know, you're a new TFT player and you just started, you did the first few steps, you're watching, learning, you're studying the meta, you're training, you're thinking about the game a lot, and you feel like you're getting a lot better. You do not want to, what's going to happen is your confidence level is going to spike. Most of the time, this happens for almost all people. Your confidence level is going to spike as soon as you start learning stuff. And once you're here, if you live here, you will never get better. And so that's why I was talking about respecting your competition, not thinking you're way better than everyone else. If you can avoid being here, that is great, but you'll almost certainly go here. And then there's 2 bad things that can happen to you once you're here. Once you're here, you can start losing, and then you can start blaming everybody, and like you just stay arrogant and you stay ignorant, and you just stay where you are because the world, it's the world's fault, not yours. You know, it's Mort Dog's fault that you can't climb. You know, you are actually a challenger. You put you in a challenger lobby, you'll win these lobbies. Like, you don't want to be there. You don't want to disrespect your competition and be stuck up here. The other bad thing that can happen to you is once you're here and then you start losing a lot, your confidence can shoot down all the way to 0, and you can stop improving. You're like, oh, you know, I wasn't cut out for this. It wasn't meant for me. You know, this sucks. So you don't want that to happen to you either. You don't want to get that fear after you start losing of like, you know, you weren't meant to do this. You know, a big indicator, it's something called in growth mindset. And this is another pop psychology thing, but I think it is true. As soon as you start feeling like a fraud, start feeling like you suck, start feeling like, you know, what did I even learn? That is an indicator that you are about to learn a lot more. If you can stick through the process and you can stick with that growth mindset and the mindset that losing is an opportunity to improve, and I just need to reanalyze my situation, reanalyze what's going on, because obviously I'm doing something wrong, then you will come here, you'll become cultured, as it says here, and then your knowledge and your confidence will start to even out. You'll start to gain more knowledge, your confidence will increase over time, and then you'll eventually, you know, if you do ever reach the top level, or you do ever reach a level where you're very good at the game, or very, you know, very knowledgeable, you'll reach a level where your confidence and your expertise start to match. And that's where you want to live, that's where you want to get. And the way you get there with TFT is, again, the plus minus equal strategy that I talked about. Always be looking ahead, be looking for something that you'll try to improve upon. Look for reanalyze the things that you've already understood, or, basic game fundamentals, reanalyze those things by teaching others, or just try to reteach it to yourself. That's a good way to analyze and find gaps in your knowledge, gaps in your play. And then respect the competition in front of you. Like, you are competing. If you're gold and you're competing against these gold players, you're competing against these players because you are gold and you are at this level. Maybe you're aspiring to be a lot higher level and most of the people you're playing against are not. And you are making some LP gains, you are making some skill gains, you're starting to push ahead. But remember to respect your competition, still do the game fundamentals. Don't get pissed at RNG. You didn't lose because of RNG. Sometimes you do, but like over the grand scheme of over a large course of games, a huge data set, it's up to you. It's your fault. And that can be a freeing experience. Once you realize that it's you. Once you realize it's you, that is a freeing experience, because that means you have control over your improvement and over where you're going to end up in this space or in life. You can use this for life as well. So anyways, guys, this is how I get better at TFT. I hope this was helpful to you. I talked a lot about like weird pop psychology stuff and not really anything game specific, because TFT is a mental game. And being good at anything is largely just a mental game. So I hope this was helpful to you guys, and good luck climbing. I'll see you on the next one.